Good morning, students of Aldersley High School. It's the 1st of May. Mrs Treble here to talk you through today's assembly. So yesterday's challenges that were set by Mrs Davis, complete some research about a different culture, one that you don't know much about, and create a poster about the customs, food, clothing and traditions. Don't forget, if you did that yesterday, to pop it on Twitter with that hashtag, and then we can see the work that you've done. Get active in the kitchen, so cook a dish which has its inspiration from a different culture. There are lots of recipes to choose from online, so if you did have a go at that yesterday, or you're going to have a go at it today, upload a picture of what you've made again and put it on Twitter with that hashtag. And the last one, get active with dancing. Learn a dance from your own or another culture with your family and have fun together. It would be fab to see some videos of anything that you tried yesterday with that hashtag on Twitter. So today's assembly is about asthma. I'm going to run you through some basic information about asthma, and hopefully it'll be quite informative for you. So what is asthma? So you can see two pictures there on your screen, a normal bronchiole and an asthmatic bronchiole. The bronchioles are within the lungs, within the respiratory system. It's what helps pass oxygen into the lungs and it helps us breathe. So you can see that the normal bronchiole there is clear, it's got lots of space in the tube, and then the asthmatic bronchiole you can see is quite clogged up, which is why if you've got asthma, that's why you have more difficulty breathing than people that don't have asthma. It's just another diagram there, so you can see the diagram's been labelled. So you've got the bronchial tube, you've got the muscles, you've got the bronchiole, which are the small branches from the bronchial tubes, and then you've got the mucus lines within the tubes. And you can see the difference. The one on the far left is a normal bronchiole, and then the middle one is someone where they've got mild asthma, where it's inflamed, and then the last one is where they've got more severe asthma, and you can see that that tube's more blocked, which again is why people with asthma struggle to breathe more than a normal person. So let's have a look at some popular questions and talk about some statistics around asthma. So have a little think about these three questions, and then I'll give you the answers on the next slide. So how many children and young people in school have asthma? So have a think about how many people you think in our school would have asthma. How many children and young people in the UK have asthma? And how many asthma-related child and young people deaths were there last year? So have a little think about those three. So the first one was about how many students in our school would have asthma. On average, there are 3 children with asthma in every classroom in the UK. So just picture yourself in your classroom. If it's a class of 30, on average, there are 3 children. So that's 10%. So that would be 10% of your year group. So if there are 250 students in your year group, which I know some of your year groups have got that many students, then there'd be 25 students in that year group that would have asthma. 1 in 11 children has asthma, and it's the most common long-term medical condition. So that's talking about the whole country. So 1 in 11 children have asthma. More than 1,400 people die from asthma attack last year. So it is quite a common illness, as you can see from those statistics, and there are obviously, but it is obviously quite serious as well if it's not carefully monitored and carefully looked out for. So if any of you do have asthma yourself, I know I've got asthma. I've got 2 inhalers at home. One is a preventer and one is a reliever. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But if you have asthma, or any of your family members have asthma, you might have seen them taking an inhaler, and you might have seen what's called a spacer, which is the big plastic thing in the diagram at the side. So the white thing with the orange cap, that's the actual inhaler, and then the clear plastic thing, that's called a spacer. Now, not all people need a spacer. It all depends on whether the doctor has given you one. I know my son has been suffering a little bit with asthma, and he was given a spacer, but he's only very young, so that's probably why he was given a spacer, to make sure that he were getting all of he needed from that inhaler. So as I said, there's two different types of inhaler. There's a preventer and a reliever. So a preventer, my preventer is a brown inhaler, and I have to take that twice a day, every day. So that inhaler wouldn't really help me if I was having an asthma attack, but it's an inhaler that I take on a regular basis to keep my asthma under control, to keep my bronchioles, like the diagram that I showed you earlier, clear. And then a reliever, my reliever is a blue inhaler, and a reliever is something that you use to relieve you. That's why they call it a reliever. So that is the one that you would use if you were having an asthma attack, or if your chest did feel tight, or if you felt that you were struggling to breathe. The reliever is the one that you would take there and then at that time. So the preventer is trying to prevent an asthma attack happening. You take it on a regular basis. And the reliever you only take when you feel that you need it, when you feel that you're struggling. There's lots of things that would trigger an asthma attack, or trigger someone with asthma to feel like they were struggling to breathe. So you can see lots of examples on the diagram there. That doesn't mean to say that if you've got asthma, you shouldn't be doing any exercise. It just means that you need to be a little bit careful. So I've always had asthma, but I've always enjoyed running, I've always enjoyed playing netball, but I've just got to make sure that if I am going to a netball match, I've got my inhaler to hand, so that if I do start to feel I'm struggling to breathe, I can take my inhaler to relieve me. Pollen, so when the pollen count's high, or if you have hay fever, that can make your asthma flare up. Chemical fumes, so that's like when you're at school and we try and say to you to not use deodorant. That's the reason why, because there's other students where that deodorant might have a negative impact on their asthma. So it's important to be aware of the people around you and think that if they do have asthma, you spraying things in school isn't going to help, and it could cause them to have an asthma attack, which obviously we don't want. So there's lots of other triggers on there just to be aware of. There's lots of famous people with asthma, so you can see on the screen there's lots of people there. They're all sports people, so you can see right at the first name there, David Beckham. I'm sure lots of you know who David Beckham is. He's a professional footballer, but he's got asthma, and he's never let that stop him going and pursuing the sports that he enjoys. But I'm sure he just has to be careful. He just has to know his limits and know that he's got his asthma inhaler with him. So you can see there's lots of people there that haven't let the fact that they are asthmatic stop them going and pursuing what they want to do. So there's lots of sports people there who have asthma but have still been successful. And then there's lots of people in entertainment there as well. So Jessica Alba, an actress, Pink, a singer, who you might have heard of. She suffers from asthma, but she's very successful as well. So yeah, it shouldn't limit you if you're asthmatic. You've just got to be a bit more aware of yourself. And then there's some literature writers, and then some politicians as well. So lots and lots and lots of people that have asthma, but have been extremely successful. So it's not to limit you at all. Today's challenges then. You might already know if you've got a family member that's got asthma, or perhaps you've got asthma yourself, but maybe try and ask a family member if they know anyone who has asthma and how it affects them, just to try and find out a little bit more. And then that might help you then be a bit more aware of what their needs are. Research what the signs are if someone is having an asthma attack and how best to help. If you do a bit of research on that, and then maybe do some notes, do a poster and put that on Twitter under the hashtag AHSasthma, then I can see. And that would just help you then, if you are in a situation where someone does end up having an asthma attack or they're struggling, then you would know what to do. Obviously, the first thing to do is to try and get their inhaler if they have one, but I want you to go and research what other things you can do to help someone in that situation. And then the final challenge is to make a poster to advise people what not to do to help people around them that may have asthma. So I gave one example there. One example you could do is make a poster about not using deodorant sprays in public places, so that you're not putting someone who is asthmatic at risk. I hope you have a fantastic day, Aldersley, in your virtual lessons, and it is Friday today, so enjoy your weekend as well.